going on, everybody? Welcome back to the God Eater lore series. So for part 2, now that we've understood the whole background and understanding of kind of the whole world of God Eater, now we can talk about the events that happened in God Eater Burst, and God Eater Resurrection. So just for full clarity, the God Eater franchise, the first game has 3 iterations, and in all 3 iterations, they added some additional story elements on top of it. And on the last note, for any of you anime-only watchers, so you're gonna find a lot of similarities throughout this beginning God Eater section explanation, but just remember that the whole Dies Pita ending scene was meant as a closure for the anime. That is not actually how, the God Eater lore progresses. God Eater. So the beginning of God Eater starts in the year 2071, where a new recruit, which is you being the protagonist, joins Fenrir's Far East branch as the first new type God Eater. If you remember from part 1, these God Arcs began very small as a simple pistol. And over time, things innovate, things get better. And that's exactly what happened with the God Arcs. Some of these cutscenes and videos that I've been showing on screen, we see what they look like, kind of massive swords. But both the game and anime begin with this new recruit coming in, being able to be a new type. This allows him to use both a blade and gun type God Arc. And the reason for this is due to compatibility. Most people that were being able to become God Eaters still weren't compatible for this new type. As you progress through the game, hunt some origami, level up your gear, at some point, another new type from Russia joins the Far East branch, and her name is Alyssa. She joins the first unit, which is led by Lindo Amamiya. The catch here is that Alyssa has a more so troubled past. Through this, she had constant struggles while trying to keep up with this first unit's missions. To not focus too heavily on Alyssa's backstory, side note, this could actually be a nice side addition to this lore series where we dive deeper onto specific characters. But for now, to kind of talk about the piece of her background story that is relevant for the lore to continue, her being a new type was kind of a double-edged sword, where yes, she was powerful, but that also meant she was vulnerable. After joining the first unit, not much time passes before Alyssa experiences a breakdown on a mission and fails in an attempted assassination of Lindo. Instead of assassinating Lindo, she traps him, and from there, he goes MIA.
Fall back! We gotta cover the flanks!
Daddy! No! No! Mommy, please! Don't eat them now!
Listen, you gotta fight! There, fight, Alyssa. Rise above it.
Oh shit. How can he just take a hit like that?
This will keep you safe. Repeat these words as if you have a trigger in the
Got it. I want you to look up in the sky.
No! Stop! Make it stop!
Oh! He then is presumed dead. Following that failed assassination attempt, the protagonist helps Alyssa rehabilitate, and through this rehabilitation, they find out that what was going on was actually brainwashing, and the culprit was Dr. Daigo Oguruma. And it actually turns out that he was working in league with Johannes, who at this point is the branch chief of the Far East branch. Johannes had been working on something called the Aegis Project, which was supposed to be a shelter to house all of humanity and protect them from origami forever. But this was actually a ruse for something called the Ark Project. The Ark Project was a project where select members of humanity would be assigned to escape the Earth in rockets before Johannes himself would reset the planet using a massive origami called Nova. Nova is nurtured from what used to be his wife, Aisha. Aisha herself was powered up by a powerful core called a singularity. And with this newfound information of Johannes's master plan, we're able to understand why Alyssa was being brainwashed. At that time, Johannes had caught word and realized that Lindau knew too much information. And I think you can imagine what's going on between both of them. Johannes is a very, very highly respected person in the Far East branch, and the same goes for Lindau. Lindau being a corporal of the 1st unit, and Johannes being the director of the Far East branch. Both of these two can't just kind of come out and accuse each other. Johannes obviously has a lot of people relying on him and looking up to him, and the same could be said for Lindau. So with that being said, in order to stop Johannes' plan, he and Lindau both know research and time are crucial. Johannes understands the threat he's up against, and really the only way to prevent Lindau from taking action is to get rid of him. And so through Alyssa, he plots and plans out his assassination. So to return back to the current times, with the power of Nova, Johannes plans to bring about the devouring apocalypse. This is the name of the event of when the devouring of the entire planet occurs. But before Johannes was able to bring about this event, he needed that singularity. And this actually resided in the body of a humanoid origami given the name Shio. And despite the efforts of Sakaki and the 1st unit to keep her safe, Johannes manages to secure her, transferring her core over to the Nova.
Time for fighting is past. You were so fond of this little monster, weren't you, Soma? Perhaps you saw something of yourself there. Foolish choice, my son. Very foolish indeed.
Enough! You're no father to me. You can think yourself a savior, but you're a traitor. Let Shio go!
The 1st unit is able to bring down Johannes, but the Nova still activates. However, Shio's will takes over from within, and she takes the Nova to the moon, terraforming it in the process. God Eater burst. So at the end of God Eater, we see the Nova going to the moon, and to start off God Eater burst, we get a response from Lindau's armlet, and the search for him is resumed. At this same time, a mysterious God Eater named Ren is introduced. He joins up with the 1st unit and aids in the search for Lindau. During this search, it's discovered that Lindau, without his armlet, has undergone origami corruption, and the 1st unit tracks him down to Aegis Island, which was the site of the battle with Johannes. And this is where the protagonist's kind of hidden ability comes into play. You're able to use a power of resonance, and through that, the protagonist dives into the corrupted Lindau's mind. They have a decisive battle versus a corrosive Hannibal, and through victory, the protagonist and Ren are eventually able to free him from corruption. And by this point in the story, it's revealed that Ren was actually a manifestation of consciousness formed from the nervous system of Lindau's God Arc. God Eater Resurrection. So the Nova has been taken to the moon. Lindau has been found and saved. Mind you, he's also kind of half human, half origami at this point. But with Resurrection, they kind of gave us information that, when you think about it, does make sense. That adds one more knot to tie. So as Shio took Nova away from Earth and towards the moon, I think we can both agree that is a fairly long distance. And so during that journey, some fragments of the Nova remained and fell down to Earth. And so Soma is tasked to gather remnants of the Nova from around the world. One of the remnants that was actually in containment escapes and begins devouring at an explosive rate. Through this feast, you could call it, the Aries Nova, which is the name of this remnant, becomes extremely diverse due to all these different bias factors that it was devouring. So when the 1st unit is sent to stop it, they're easily overpowered due to the multitude of bias factors able to render their God Arcs useless. So Dr. Sakaki eventually develops a plan to overload the second Nova's bias factor with super powerful cores, which will then render it vulnerable and allow the first unit to slay it. Once this is done and accomplished, this brings up Shio's will and allows them to have a proper farewell this time. And with that, we have the end, or should I say the full story of God Eater, spanning from God Eater 1, God Eater Burst, and the newest edition, God Eater Resurrection. So for the next part, we're going to be going over God Eater 2 and God Eater 2 Rage Burst, and from there we can finally talk about God Eater 3 and begin speculating kind of where the story is going to go from here. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for the upcoming episodes, and there is some new God Eater 3 content coming, so we will be streaming that. Maybe have some videos as well, so you do not want to miss it. But other than that, that's all I gotta say. So I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. Lamp with the tape, I'm a legend in the room. JSquad chillin', now my homies bringing boom. Don't try to play the game without asking about the rules. I keep my cards safe, nigga, what you do? Pop it off easy, I'm not trying to snap your neck.